providers being at or near capacity and there being no current public indoor options. Because of the need for more indoor water, there's a lack of opportunities for year-round aquatic programming for a segment of the population, including children, seniors, veterans, and for swimming instruction. They also found that we have overlapping service areas with our existing outdoor public facilities and gaps in our service areas. The consultants recommended phase 1 of the master plan was to replace the existing Spellerberg pool with an indoor aquatic facility. Doing this would replace an aging and obsolete pool in the park system. It would meet the immediate needs for public indoor water in the city, and its centralized location and 5-mile service radius would serve the entire community. In addition, its location to the VA hospital could provide warm water therapy opportunities and access for veterans and their families on a year-round basis. The Aquatic Facility Master Plan was completed in early 2013. A copy of the report can be found on the website at siouxfalls.org/parks. As the Aquatic Facility Master Plan was being developed in early 2013, the Spellerberg Outdoor Pool Petition was developed and circulated in the community. In April 2013, the petition signatures were confirmed and presented to the City Council. The City Council then set April 8, 2014 as the date for the election on the Spellerberg Outdoor Pool. The petition requires that the current outdoor swimming pool at Spellerberg Park be replaced by a new outdoor swimming pool. It also stipulates that the cost of the new outdoor pool cannot exceed $7.5 million. It must be built by December 31st, 2015 at the latest, and the size of the new outdoor pool complex, including parking, cannot exceed the current complex footprint by more than 20%. This ballot will accompany the city attorney's explanation on the ballot. A yes vote is for the construction of an outdoor pool complex, and a no vote is against the construction of an outdoor pool complex at Spellerberg Park. In July of 2013, the City Council approved a contract with TSP Architects and Councilman Hunsaker and Associates to develop conceptual plans of both an outdoor and indoor facility at Spellerberg Park to help inform voters what each facility would look like and how it would be located within Spellerberg Park. The outdoor facility concept conforms to the requirements set forth in the ballot initiative. The indoor facility concept is largely based on the recommendations from the Aquatic Facility Master Plan.
I'm Tori Miedemont, Park Development Specialist for the Parks and Recreation Department. The next few slides are the results of the conceptual work our consultants prepared. Let's start with the outdoor facility. Here's a site plan showing how it will fit on the site. Working from the top of the page, or from the north if you're familiar with the park, you can see that the existing picnic and playground area has been retained. The usable or flat open green space in the northern third of the park is retained as well. The tennis courts and basketball court would be relocated within the park close to the picnic shelter. The sand volleyball courts would be shifted slightly. The existing walkways around and through the park would be retained and enhanced. The sledding hill would also be left untouched and actually enhanced with more convenient parking. This is a floor plan of the proposed outdoor aquatic center. Working from the west, you can see 2 water slides, 3 25-meter lap lanes, a current channel, a zero-depth pool with spray nozzles and play features, plaza area, and the bathhouse. There will also be about 179 parking spaces to handle the daily parking demand. The complex, with parking included, maximizes the space allowed per the Spellerberg Outdoor Petition. To give you an idea of the size of the pool, it is roughly the size of Laurel Oaks, minus the green space and sand play area. We also have some 3D images to give you a feel of how the facility will look. This is an aerial view from Western Avenue looking west. You can see the bathhouse in the foreground with the pool and the VA in the background. Here's another shot of the bathhouse from ground level looking west. The bathhouse mimics the design of the bathhouse at Drake Springs, our most recently built pool. This is a good shot of the zero-depth pool. You can also see the plaza area to the left and deck and grass area to the right. This is right after entering the facility through the bathhouse. This is a shot looking east towards Western Avenue. You can see the current channel to the left and the 3 25-meter lap lanes to the right. Just out of sight to the right are 2 water slides. Now look at the indoor aquatic facility. The site plan is essentially the same as the outdoor facility, with the only difference being the indoor facility is slightly larger due to the additional amenities being provided. We are proposing a 203 stall parking lot to handle the daily parking demands generated by the facility. Here's a look at the proposed floor plan for the facility. Working from the left, you can see an outdoor spray ground area and sun deck for the warmer times of the year. In addition to a warm water therapy pool, there are 2 water slides that run out on the deck. Next to that is a current channel. Also in this space are 3 25-meter lap lanes and a zero-depth pool with spray nozzles and interactive play features. There are also community rooms and a dry viewing area. Moving up and to the right, you can see a 50-meter by 25-yard pool. There will also be movable bulkheads to split the water body into 3 separate areas, which provides for a lot of programming flexibility. There are 2 1-meter diving boards and 1 3-meter board towards the far right. There's also seating for 500 off the deck. Now we have some 3D images to show you the different features. This is an aerial view from Western Avenue looking west towards the VA hospital. This is a closer view of the front door looking west from ground level. This is a shot of the recreational side of the building. In the foreground, you can see the zero-depth pool with 3 25-meter lap lanes immediately to the left. In the background, you can see the 2 water slides. There's also a lot of glass in the building to allow in natural light. This is from the far west side of the recreational area. You can see the therapy pool to the right and the current channel to the left. Out past the windows to the right, you can see the outdoor sun deck. This is a look from the outside of the building. To your left, you can see the outdoor spray ground, and further to the right, you can see another view of the sun deck. This is a shot of the 50-meter by 25-yard pool. The bulkheads are to one end, but this pool can be split into 3 different bodies of water. In the far left corner of the picture, you can see the diving boards. To the far right corner, you can see the elevated seating and office space.
So, how do the outdoor and indoor facilities compare? First, let's look at it from a usage point of view. An outdoor pool could be open up to 90 days out of the year, depending on weather. The indoor facility would be open 360 days per year. The outdoor pools are typically open 8 hours per day, while the projected indoor pool would be open for 15 hours per day. That equals 720 hours of availability for the outdoor pool and 5,400 available hours for the indoor pool on an annual basis. The Aquatic Facility Master Plan projects that the bather load capacity of the outdoor facility is 330, compared to 583 for the indoor facility. Based on an approximate turnover rate of 2.5, the daily bather load capacity is 831 for the outdoor facility and 1,520 for the indoor facility. Now, a couple numbers on cost. The estimated net cost per hour to operate the outdoor facility is $209, compared to $128 for an indoor facility. The estimated cost to build the outdoor facility is $7.5 million, while the cost to build the indoor facility is $19.4 million. We also wanted to compare the amenities in the concept plans. Both facilities will have zero-depth pools, lap lanes, water slides, a current channel, and outdoor spray features and sun decks. On top of that, the indoor concept also includes 3 diving boards, a therapy pool, and multi-purpose rooms. In addition, it would also have a 50-meter pool with 2 movable bulkheads that allows the pool to be divided into 3 bodies of water for programming flexibility.
I'm Mike Cooper, Director of Planning and Building Services for the City of Sioux Falls, and I'll be talking about parking and traffic impacts from the 2 proposed facilities. Another question that was raised during our Spellerberg neighborhood meetings was parking. The concept plans include parking lots sized according to projections found in the aquatic facility master plan. The outdoor facility concept shows a 179 stall parking lot, while the indoor concept shows a 203 stall parking lot. Our city traffic engineering staff researched similar facilities in the region and found that the proposed parking lots for both facilities were adequate to meet the daily parking needs. City traffic engineering also analyzed the parking needs for potential swim meets that could occur if an indoor facility was built. They collected data from a 4-day swim meet in Frank Olson Park in 2013 and found that on average 250 parking spaces are needed on a daily basis during the swim meet. It also was believed to be the largest swim meet ever held in the state of South Dakota during that time. When looking at available parking, they identified 64 on-street parking spaces along 22nd and 26th Streets adjacent to the park. When factoring in these 64 parking spaces and the 203 available spaces within the park itself, that would actually exceed the demand for a swim meet without having to use neighborhood street parking. We would also not be using the VA hospital parking lots during a swim meet event. It's common that we would see typically 2 to 3 swim meets held annually for our facility. In addition to the parking, city traffic engineering also looked at what would be the projected traffic impacts that each facility would generate along Western Avenue compared to existing traffic flow. We found that traffic will not increase as a result of the indoor facility when compared to the existing outdoor pool, because the traffic will be spread out over a longer period of time throughout the day. We did find that traffic could increase by about 100 cars per day with the new outdoor pool concept plan when compared to the current outdoor pool facility.
Hi, I'm Tracy Turback, the City Finance Director for the City of Sioux Falls. Now that you've heard about the two options and understand how the indoor and the outdoor facilities compare with each other, let's consider financing. As you saw earlier, the estimated cost for the outdoor facility is $7.5 million. The indoor facility estimated costs are $19.4 million. In the capital plan that the City Council adopted last fall, the outdoor facility is not considered. And so if the decision ultimately is made to move forward with an outdoor aquatics facility, the capital plan would need to be amended and the money would need to be appropriated by the City Council. Now, that long-term capital plan that the council did approve last fall does provide for an indoor aquatics facility. The plan provides funding of $6.4 million from available cash, with the balance to be funded by the sale of sales tax revenue bonds. Two other key points to remember in regard to the indoor facility: the operating costs for that indoor aquatic facility have been included in the city's long-term financial forecasting models, and no tax increases will be needed to pay for the construction of the facility.
Thank you for allowing us to share this information with you today. If you have any questions, you can email us at spellerberg@siouxfalls.org.
Don, I'd like to say this. Good evening. My name is Bruce Danielson, a resident of Sioux Falls. I've been active in issue and candidate campaigns for almost 50 years. As a group of us began to watch the issue campaigns build, we saw serious issues with the way the 2014 Sioux Falls city election was being managed. We banded together to create a new organization to help protect the ballot process for Sioux Falls voters. I was asked to be chairman of the group you may now have heard of, Citizens for Integrity. The City of Sioux Falls is legally allowed to only supply in written form a simple, clear language explanation of what a yes vote means and what a no vote means. That's it, nothing more, nothing less. The four video ballot measures being presented are not the only issues the voter must make decisions on this election. There are actually 7 ballot questions. Demand your city be forthright in legally presenting all of them to the people who are expected to vote on April 8th. We wish to remind you, tonight city officials will be presenting these 4 biased advocacy videos and public pronouncements disguised as education. Thank you for being interested in the process. and being here this evening, and then don't forget to vote on April 8th. Thank you.
Questions?
I'd like to know why this gentleman feels that these videos are biased and they're not telling truthful information.
We could discuss that outside. This is for
No,
the
I think
pool
this
issue
group
right now.
needs to hear that. If you're going to make accusations like that, then give us the information that you think is illegal or biased.
For one, the indoor pool is not on the ballot, it's the outdoor pool. There is no
That's true.
option, there's only one option.
Of course.
There's
but
only one option, and plus, they're not telling you that this is gonna be subsidized by the people of Sioux Falls to run an indoor facility.
You can't have a vote on an outdoor pool without the alternative. You have
Yes,
to
you
look.
can.
Oh, of course.
That's
If
the
you
way
want-
it's on the ballot.
If you want to have people confused, yes, you can do that.
And they're confusing them, and that's what he's doing this right now.
Go ahead.
I heard subsidy come up. Talk about how an outdoor pool, I assume that we're gonna subsidize, like we subsidize the rest of the pools. Would an outdoor pool be subsidized the same way an indoor community pool would be subsidized? How would that work?
Yeah, all of our swimming pools are currently subsidized, regardless of what facility it is. All 8 aquatic facilities that we currently have are now subsidized, and that's not unusual for municipalities that are subsidized aquatic facilities, and this is the same true whether it be indoor or outdoor.
So there is an ongoing operational cost.
That's correct. Other questions?
John, can you give us the projected subsidy for the indoor pool and the projected subsidy for the outdoor pool
Yeah.
per year?
Yeah, certainly can. The subsidy for the indoor facility is projected at $692,000. I'm rounding a little bit here, not exact numbers, but the small family aquatic center is projected at $150,000. That's based on 90 days of use, and the outdoor is based on 360 days.
Don, I think you might have unintentionally just misspoken. You indicated outdoors based on 360 days of use. I think we should put it
Did I get those backwards?
Indoor.
I apologize.
But I also wanted to ask you, the figures that you quoted for the annual operating deficit between outdoor versus indoor, are those for year one of after the creation? What do those costs increase, and what is the relative incremental increase between outdoor versus indoor?
They do increase. Year 2 it's about $3,000 for the outdoor, and year 2 for the indoor is about $18,000.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Been listening to all of these, and there is information in all of these that is incorrect. But in looking over this whole plan, this whole idea, some things that come to mind, as far as the indoor pool goes, it doesn't meet basic business 101. The indoor pool is gonna be a standalone. The indoor pool is gonna be in a place where there's no growth or room for expansion short of going out to 22nd Avenue or Western Avenue. There isn't enough parking, despite you coming up with the 250 parking spaces, actually because those signs that say no parking up there are limiting, and actually at best it's 233. And this is a 50-year building that is going to max out its very first day. There will be no growth for 50 years, there will be no more parking for 50 years, and there will be no other facilities building around it for 50 years that are going to facilitate that making more money. The cost of this building is $20 million projected. The revenue on its good day is going to be 1/3 of that, of the total cost, total annual cost about 1.1 million, something like that. And projected 1/3 of that is going to be revenue on a good day. The operation is actually going to cost probably around $728 million a year. And if you're going to limit the number of swim meets to 2 to 3 a year, then it could go up to $1 million a year that the taxpayer is going to have to pay. The building is 70,000 square feet, 22 feet high. That is not just a little stone in the road. This is a major change to the park, and in fact, we're gonna lose the green space and the sight line, of which you are paying money in the rest of the parks around town to make sure they in fact do have their sight line, to make sure they've got good greening and all of that. Anybody who drives down Western Avenue, whether going north or south, and the trees that you see on that side are all coming down. You will not see them anymore. You're gonna see a building, and then they're gonna put a few more trees in there to plug it in. And ultimately, it's gonna be a loss of a 59-year-old park. And I can't imagine why that is such an easy thing to do in Sioux Falls, when Sioux Falls is known for their parks. That is a selling point for people coming to their Sioux Falls. And I can say your line in here, we've discussed this before, and you won't take it out. The idea, you're misleading people into thinking that the VA is in support of this and is endorsing this indoor pool. They are not endorsing it. They will not be using a public facility for health care for veterans. I'm the one that went over to the VA, the director, and announced to them in May of 2012, did you know the city was going to use your parking lot for an indoor swimming pool? He didn't know anything about it. But again, they aren't going to use a public facility for health care. The idea that there's going to be no indoor pool for the next 7 to 10 years, I guess to the folks who are saying that, I've heard that a lot the last few weeks, that's only going to be the case if you allow the city to do that. You got to stay on the city and get them going and get a good plan going. All we're saying is, for the size of the facility, or for the size of the park, the right facility is going to be an outdoor pool to replace the one that's there. It's a neighborhood pool in a neighborhood park. And so we're asking everyone to vote yes.
I just had a question as a guy that grew up in Delaware area. It looks like some other people there live there. My mother retired now, worked at children's care for many, many years. But what, you know, if it does go through for an indoor pool, what would the cost be roughly for versus indoor and outdoor?
Yeah, the rate structure that all the financial projections are based on, operating facilities are based on a current rate structure.
Can't hear them.
I'll speak up, sorry about that. The current rates that we currently have in place are the same rates that we use to calculate the financial projections on both the indoor and outdoor facilities. And so to answer your question, a family currently in the summer season will pay $70 as long as they don't qualify for the free and reduced passes. So if they would have won a season pass over the 4 seasons, spring, summer, winter, and fall, it would be $280 for the entire family to swim. If they wanted to swim all 4 seasons, if they wanted to select 2 of those seasons, obviously it'd be $140, just 70 times how many seasons you want to swim. Is there one back here? Question? Other questions?
I have one more.
Yeah.
In regards to children's care, and I don't know anymore because my mother hasn't worked there for a while, but it sounds like you have good knowledge. I know the VA contracts with them to use their old pool, which I would assume if there was a new indoor pool, the city might have a shot at that too. Do you know?
They don't have any plans of doing that, no. They have their own contracts, they're gonna stick with them. The only contract that they've got right now with Children's Care, they do use the pool, but Children's Care is leasing a parking lot from the VA, and that's...
So the VA has a parking lot that they're leasing out?
It has been for a number of years.
Okay.
If you've driven along
I didn't
26,
know.
on 26 and
Sounded
along
like-
22nd, it's
Sounded
pretty...
like maybe there was a parking problem or something, so I don't know.
It's very bad, and they've increased the parking lot that they were leasing. In fact, they picked up 2 more aisles in another parking lot, as the VA has got another parking lot. Parking's a horrendous problem. If anyone, I would encourage
So
them.
it's more a children's care issue. The VA has a lot of parking, but elects to.
Well, both sides, 26th and 22nd on both sides. Garfield in the back is bumper to bumper cars. And then the side streets going down each off of 26th and 22nd also. I've got cars going down, and particularly on the 26th side, they go way down into the residential area for parking.
Other questions?
I got one last question. Is there a concern, or I'll start with first, no study was done by the Park and Rec or by anybody in the city to determine that the $7.5 million should be used for an outdoor pool at all, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so in saying that, if we vote yes, and it is allowed, and it is put in that we have to put in an outdoor pool, does some study and some site survey and all that type of stuff have to be done kind of from scratch to make sure that that fits and that type of thing? Or is it just one person's opinion or the people that got together that put the item on the ballot that that would be the correct thing to do and the correct amount of money to spend? Could there be more expenses that need to be done for an outdoor pool?
Well, kind of two-part answer to your question. I think one is that we were not consulted on what was placed in the ballot. Like, we weren't involved in that process. I think was your first question. The second question is that we've determined that we can build a facility for the dollar amount that's been placed in the ballot for an outdoor facility on that site. And it has to conform with the other condition in that ballot that requires that we cannot exceed the existing complex by 20%. So we're confident that $7.5 million is enough to build an outdoor facility there.
Would it be possible too that the citizens not wanting some of those amenities, it could be a lot less?
Yeah, you have to be
It could
determined.
certainly be less, right?
It's
If the
possible.
people decide, yes, we want an outdoor pool, no, we do not want a water feature spray park, but we're gonna have zero depth, and we're gonna have
The only limitation, Charlie, is it can't be more.
right. Okay, so it could be less.
We're on our 6:30 hour. If you'd like to continue to ask questions and have dialogue, find another room.
It's gonna be published, right?
Oh,
Photo? Photo?
Thank you for coming on MariCar.
You never know.
Trying to be famous.
There you are. I like that one.
Initiated measure, so we'll start with a video just like we done.
Hello, I'm Galen Hubert, the Street Fleet Manager for Public Works. Today I'd like to talk to you about two things. One is the ballot question on snow gates that you're going to see in April, and the other is how we went about over the last 3 winters testing, and then also the results of the snow gate test that we did do. So let's start out with the ballot question. This is the wording that the city received from the signatures on the initiative to implement snow gates. This is what you will see on the ballot in April. And just a brief explanation on what this means. If the voters approve this initiated measure, then the city would use snow gate devices to aid in snow removal program for streets within the city of Sioux Falls. A vote yes is for the use of snow gates in the city's snow removal program. A vote no is against the use of snow gates in the city snow removal program. So let's talk about how we went through and tested snow gates, and then we'll get into the results of those tests. First of all, what is a typical winter in Sioux Falls? A typical winter is approximately 43 inches of snow, which means I have to plow out the city approximately 5 times. So what is a snow alert then when I do declare a snow alert? A snow alert means that we go in and we plow every street within the city of Sioux Falls. There's approximately 3,000 lane miles within the city of Sioux Falls, and it takes just under 30 hours to plow out the city on an average basis. As you can see from this slide, this is the 3 winters that we actually tested snow gates. And you can see the first winter was a very typical winter for us, in which we had 6 snow alerts and we had 45.6 inches of snow. The other 2 winters were a lot less snow than what we normally would receive. We also tried to take a look at when we were using snow gates, we tried to spread it out throughout the entire city. We tried to go into mature areas of town where the streets are a little bit narrower. We also tried to go to the outer city limits of the city where the streets are a little bit wider and the lots are a little bit larger. We also tried to get different types of configuration of streets, hilly streets, streets with curves, flat streets. Also, we could get a good measure of how snow gates would work. And over the 3-year process, we basically tested 20% of the city streets with snow gates. So what did we consider when we were out using the snow gates? First of all, we want to know the snow amount per event, the type of snow. By that I mean if it's a wet snow or a dry snow, the total snow accumulation for the event, and then again we get into the street characteristics as far as narrow streets, wider streets, how wide the driveway is, the spacing between driveways, and then the type of equipment that we use as far as the snow gates themselves, and then the operator experience. One other thing that we took a look at was the private contractors. Private contractors provide 40% of our snow removal operation during a snow alert. And so we had to take a look at their coordination as far as shifting, communications, fueling, and their repair and maintenance. So what did we learn from snow gates? We found out that it does effectively reduce snow in driveways and intersections up to a certain amount of snow. Normally that point for us in Sioux Falls is right about 6 inches. Anything below 6 inches, it worked very effectively. Above 6 inches, the efficiency went down. Also, the difference between wet snow and dry snow. Dry snow was, we were able to blade off with snow gates a lot easier than wet snow. Wet snow tended to hang up in the blade and it was harder for it to discharge away from the blade. And then again, cul-de-sacs are hard without snow gates, and with snow gates it added another challenge for us. The other thing that we also seen was that streets will be narrowed throughout the winter using snow gates. We also seen that using our 6-wheel drive motor graders was essential to make sure that we were able to push the snow as close to the curb as we could. And then also the operator effectiveness improved greatly with experience. Each year that we tested, I used the same operators, and every year they became more efficient on how they were able to operate the snow gates. And then also the teamwork that's required with the contractors. We tested 2 different types of snow gates during this 3-year process, and the hinky snow gates performed the best. They allowed us to get to the curb the closest. They were engineered so they fit our moldboard better, and it allowed us to also clean the gutter pan better than with the other snow gate. What are the snow gate opportunities that you'll see? Snow gates do reduce snow in the driveways. Snow gates do reduce the snow in the intersections. As we go through an intersection, we'll close the gate and pull the snow all the way through instead of leaving it windrow and discharge it when we get on the other side. And then we did receive a lot of positive feedback from the public on snow gates. What are some of the risks that we may experience with snow gates? It's going to increase our time. We have to drive slower with snow gates in order to keep the snow in the blade. And there's also potential for more breakdowns because snow gates have hydraulic hoses and parts in them that can break down. So it could add to the delays. And then also the logistics of working with contractors and snow gates. Another one of the risks that we may experience is narrowing of the streets. What type of risk would this cause? Certainly our main goal is safety. And not only for the driving public, but also for the first responders out there. We want to make sure that the streets are wide enough so they can get their equipment through the street, especially like fire trucks. The other thing it may do is it may cause us to eliminate on-street parking during the winter if the streets do get too narrow. It will cause us to have to do a lot more plowbacks because of narrow streets, and with drifting, the drifts will come out onto the driving lanes a lot quicker, which means we'll have to react to it. And some of the things that we're seeing right now is we get snow melt, the inlets are plugged, and the water doesn't have any place for it to basically to leave the street. And we're going to have to go out and open up those inlets to physically get the water to drain off the streets. So those are some of the risks that you may experience with narrowing streets. Some of the flexibilities that we may have to have with snow gates is limiting their use. We may have to limit their use if we receive a snow event of over 6 inches. Again, we want to make sure that the streets are clean and safe once we go through them. And we were experiencing situations with over 6 inches of snow that there's so much snow going over the blade and around the blade, it didn't even look like we were plowing it. So we may have to limit it with more than 6 inches of snow. And also in streets where the snow is starting to narrow it, we may have to eliminate using snow gates on certain streets during the winter season. The test data has 2 concerns. One of them is that 2 of the 3 years were very mild winters, and we didn't get a lot of data from those 2 mild winters. And the actual financial results may vary based on winter conditions and identifiable variables within the winter. What did we consider as far as costs when we were looking at snow gates? We looked at the plowing costs, which includes fueling, labor, materials, and then the initial cost of purchasing the snow gates, and then thirdly, the cost of picking up the snow. What we found out from the data once we collected it, as far as fuel consumption goes, depending on the type of snow, if we have a really dry snow, we had very little additional fuel consumption with snow gates. As we got heavier and wetter snow, the fuel consumption did increase with the use of snow gates. Operational times was showing that same type of curve. If we had dry snow, it wasn't taking us that much longer to do this entire city with snow gates versus the heavy wet snow. When we had to go and plow the city out, it took longer. And then again, that associates along with the time. We can plow the city out normally in less than 30 hours. With snow gates, it's probably going to take us a little over 30 hours. What are the estimated costs for operating snow gates within the city? There's a one-time cost of purchasing the snow gates, and we estimate that we'll need 33 snow gates for $198,000. And then the annual cost that will go along with operating snow gates would be the fuel, the labor, the equipment cost, the contractors, installation, maintenance, and replacement of snow gates, which amounts to about $325,000. And then one of the things that we've seen the first winter, when we had a very average winter of 46 inches, we actually had to go in and pick up snow on some residential streets that we normally don't pick up snow on. So estimating that we're going to have to go in and pick up some of these streets, we're putting a dollar amount of anywhere from $0 to $290,000 to do additional snow pickup. And this would be primarily around school zones to provide for the safety of children while they're being dropped off and when they're being picked up. So the total annual cost to operate snow gates within the city of Sioux Falls should range somewhere between $325,000 and $615,000 on a yearly basis. I hope this has helped you to understand how the operation of snow gates worked within the city of Sioux Falls, the data that we collected, and also the results. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact either Mark Cotter, the Director of Public Works, or myself. Thank you.
Questions?
Questions.
Yes.
First of all, are the snow gates, once they're put on in the fall, left on until spring, or is that they put on and off the equipment as you're deeming the snow day required?
Well, we rent the majority of our fleet, and so October 15th, we'll receive our fleet of rental motor graders, and then we'll be putting them on, and then we have to turn them back, like we'll have to turn our motor graders back on April 15th. And so we would be taking them off at that point in time. Normally what we've seen is that those vendors, whether it's CAT or John Deere, have been historically the 2 vendors that are providing the motor graders. They normally sell all those machines, and so it's always a new round, and so they'll always be upfitting those snow gates to motor graders. The city itself owns 5 motor graders. We rent another 32, and then we bring on about 29 to 30 contractor motor graders.
Also, it sounds like there's potential for more snow piling at the intersections and sidewalks. right now, I'm an outdoor runner, I run 1,200 miles year-round outside, and winter gets pretty treacherous on those corners because those start to get wider and wider. Now, it sounds like maybe the snow gates, there's going to be dumping more at each corner as they get through the intersection.
It can be, what we normally do today without snow gates is that you'll take two motor graders through an intersection. And then there's usually a trailing ridge of snow that the trailing sander behind will knock that ridge down. And so that can actually put it on all four corners. What we've seen with snow gates is that on the intersection that you're leaving, normally you'll drop the snow gate, there'll be less snow on that handicap return. But then as you get across the intersection, you've pulled all that snow, then you'll pull it and you'll actually discharge probably more on that one. So it becomes, there'll be one that's lighter and there'll be one that's slightly heavier. Okay. Other questions? Yes?
A vote yes takes away common sense. Does that mean you always use the gates then?
A vote yes essentially means that when we declare a snow alert and we go into the neighborhoods to plow the streets, we'll be using snow gates. So this last winter, we had just over 70 snow events that we addressed, and we declared 3 snow alerts where we actually went in and physically plowed out the neighborhood streets. So they would have been used 3 times this past winter season.
So you can differentiate between whether it's a drier snow and a heavier snow. And if it's a snow alert, you have to use the gates with a vote yes.
I think one of the things that we identified is that it's really the depth of snow has been probably the biggest concern for us, is because there becomes, when you drop the gate, when you get over 6 inches of snow, that's a lot of snow to be carrying through any level of driveway. Some driveways are 12 feet wide, some are 24, some are 36, and it gets to be a large amount of snow to pull through without it sort of boiling over the moldboard. And so then it looks like in some cases that you have to plow the streets. And so when we received over that 6 inches of snow, that was the flexibility that we talked about, that the results aren't, that was the feedback that we heard. The results aren't good when we get above 6 inches. Now, this last winter, we just, that's not a common snow amount. We get a lot of 2 and 4 inch snow. So. Other thoughts, questions?
I've read about the comparison to Bismarck and Bismarck City. Are there other communities here in the Midwest that have similar snowfalls?
We initiated the test case in 2010 because Bismarck was really probably our primary reference, and we wanted to really see what the data was here. I haven't been in connection with anyone else in the localized Midwest that's used them. This data is right here from Sioux Falls, so it's as good as we can provide. And hopefully it's almost done snowing for the year, and we can actually get out and run without having to shovel every other day. So, but I think we may be a little snow tonight. Yes.
If you get the snow, you still have retain ability to decide to do this or not.
Well, there is some discretion. I can read it. We've got a little bit of time here. That's been provided, and it really speaks to emergency routes. And if you go onto our website and you look at what we've deemed as the emergency routes, those are primarily the mile grid streets, the Cliff Avenue, the Minnesota Avenue, but there are a number of streets in the core part of the city, on 18th Street and downtown, that are been deemed emergency snow routes. The reason that we need discretion on those is essentially as soon as the first snowflake falls, we deploy a fleet of sanders, about 45 of them. A certain amount go in every respective zone. We start to treat and actually start to melt that snow as it falls. And so the discretion really comes from the emergency snow routes. The only else that we've asked for is flexibility, is when you get snows above 6 inches, just from a coverage standpoint. And I personally followed those motor graders, and the snow just comes over the top of those moldboards, and it makes it just doesn't discharge the snow appropriately. So that's what we've seen. put in a life cycle of 5 years into that annual replacement. They make sure that that annual cost includes funding for replacement on a 5-year interval with the amount of use and movement and mechanical parts. That's what the vendors told us that they will allow. Anything else? Got about 2 minutes left. Yes.
In your pamphlet, it says that there's snow gates or other devices to prevent snow. What are the other devices?
We haven't tested any other devices besides it could be anywhere, likely from anything that would keep snow. And so there hasn't been any discussion, but whether that means that if we have a motor grader that breaks down with a snow gate, if we could utilize a truck plow to kind of swing in and get that snow. We've done that when we've had to go out and plow some select areas and we don't say declare a snow alert. Say there's been one area of town that with the wind, there's a lot of snow and drifting, so we'll just target one area. We won't declare a citywide snow alert, but we'll actually go into an area. Sometimes we'll actually follow those motor graders with a truck plow, and instead of pitching the truck plow blade toward the house, we'll pitch it the other way, and we'll kind of swing into driveways, grab it, and then we'll discharge it on the way down. And so it becomes this process of that would be the only comment I can share about what we've done in the past to, when we've gone into a select area because of drifting, to try to minimize how much we discharge into someone's driveway. Our goal is always to get the streets open as quickly as possible and restore traffic safety. That's my time. Thank you for listening. Next up is Mike Cooper. Thank you.
Our next presentation is going to be regarding the zoning at 85th and Minnesota Avenue. My name is Mike Cooper with the City Planning Office. Let's go here.
I'll get that out.
You need that too.
Yeah. It's just these things are so loud out there.
Hello, I'm Mike Cooper, Director of Planning and Building Services for the City of Sioux Falls. Today I'll be talking about the referendum on commercial zoning at the corner of 85th Street and Minnesota Avenue. Last fall, the City Council passed an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls rezoning property at the southwest corner of 85th Street and Minnesota Avenue from agricultural to the planned commercial, office, and recreation conservation districts. The ballot will have a yes or no vote available. If you support the commercial zoning taking effect at 85th Street and Minnesota Avenue, a yes vote is in favor and a no vote is against. The area shown is the 39-acre site at 85th and Minnesota Avenue that was rezoned to the commercial, office, and recreation conservation districts. This is in the southwest corner of the intersection of those two streets. The two exhibits show the existing zoning on the left, which is agricultural, and the proposed zoning on the right, which again is a combination of office, commercial, and recreation conservation. At the time this zoning was presented to the City Council, a site plan was included showing the proposed south side Walmart, along with 8 smaller lots for commercial or office development, as well as 3 stormwater drainage ponds. The zoning consideration was based in part on conformance with our comprehensive plan. This plan is the overall growth management plan for Sioux Falls development, extending out to the year 2035. The City Council adopted that plan in December of 2009. And the proposed zoning would be consistent with that plan, which shows this corner of 85th and Minnesota Avenue as a sub-regional employment center. An employment center size is determined by the type of streets as well as access points along those major streets. This shows the future development plan for Sioux Falls, including the roadways by type, as well as employment centers in the vicinity of 85th and Minnesota, which would be a sub-regional, as well as other smaller employment centers, which would be neighborhood or business park. A sub-regional employment center is intended to draw commerce not only from the city of Sioux Falls, but also from outside of the community. This type of employment center is typically located at the intersection of major arterial streets or adjacent to an interstate. And in this case, both 85th Street and Minnesota Avenue are major arterial roadways. Once again, the zoning exhibit shows the proposed zoning that was approved by the City Council. It would include a combination of planned commercial, office, as well as recreation conservation. And finally, a reminder that the ballot will have a yes or no vote for this item. Do you support the commercial zoning taking effect at 85th Street and Minnesota Avenue? A yes vote is for the commercial zoning to take effect, and a no vote is against the commercial zoning taking effect. If you have any questions about this item, or if you would like additional information, you can contact the City Planning Office at 367-8888. That's the end of that presentation. Questions or comments? Here on number 7. Our last presentation will be at 7:10.
Step into that room down there, Kirsten. You should step into that room for a minute. Yeah, they will be for quite a while. You need to see that. Yeah.
Say, Mike, are you gonna miss all these meetings? You've been at all these now for like the last month or so.
I have to look a little further around.
Just trying to put it in this way instead. We'll have to have considerations. And then if you haven't already noticed, in the back is the information about the ballot issues, sample ballot, and the voting locations. So,
There's
all the information.
I will talk to you later. Thanks,
Are they still meeting out here?
You know, it's down at far end. After tonight, he's
It's too cold to snow? No. Yeah, really dry.
Beautiful.
Somewhere warm, I think. Okay, well, that's not bad. Okay. You didn't have any, too many snow alerts there, did you?
No. Up north, but yeah.
We call it back, we just didn't even want to say what.
Getting this little nuisance snow, you know. Cold temperatures. Yep. He wrapped up a pretty good bill. Oh, okay.
You just pencil that cost in.
That's part of your overhead cost.
But does the management give it a day or two?
It's 48 hours, that's all the time. Minneapolis, it's 24 hours. Yeah, thank you. Yep. No, they didn't want to do the snow yet. So it's 3 of the 4. Yep. So yeah, that's interesting. Okay, it's officially 7:10. So we'll start the final presentation, which is in regards to the shaped places in the ordinance.
Hello, I'm Jeff Schmidt with the City of Sioux Falls. I'd like to introduce you to one of the ballot items that's coming up in April. This is the ballot item that's included in regards to the zoning ordinance for the April 8th election. What is Shaped Places? Shaped Places is the first major update of the existing 1983 zoning ordinance. This was approved by City Council in March of 2013 with a vote of 7-0. The proposed ordinance that is going forward in April develops the places that we have in the City of Sioux Falls, where specific places are located, such as where you live, work, shop, or go to school, how places are designed, how tall they are, how far away they are, and what the places should look like. The lighting, the parking, the trees, the signage. The The city attorney's explanation of shaped places says that a vote yes is for shaped places to take effect, a vote no is against shaped places taking effect. And this is how the ballot will be in April. Shaped places does not affect the Southside Walmart. The shaped places zoning ordinance and commercial decisions at 85th and Minnesota are two separate and distinct issues. Whether shaped places is in effect or not, a large commercial store could still be built at 85th and Minnesota Avenue. If the 1983 zoning ordinance remains in effect, the existing ordinance and the standards will be enforced. In regards to that, the single-family districts allow a variety of land uses. Older residential lots need a 50-foot frontage in order to have construction on them. There are only 2 fence options, and all commercial buildings go into one commercial zoning district called the C4 Planned Commercial District. If shaped places takes effect, the new ordinance states these standards. The new ordinance has a separation distance from residential, and the shaped places has zoning matter. Shaped places states the zoning all on one page. There are sheets like this that show what the overlay districts are, what the requirements are, what the setbacks are, and they show it in one page. There are separation distances from single family. The standardized distances that are used in regards to residential districts. These are just some of the examples in shaped places. Full-service restaurants have to be 250 feet away from residential land uses. Halfway houses have to be 1,000 feet away, and adult uses have to be 1,000 feet away. This is not a conditional use. There are separation distances that are required in shaped places. Saying that zoning matters in shaped places. The decision-making process did not change between the existing ordinance and the proposed ordinance. The public decisions are made when zoning is decided. For example, uses are decided when the area is zoned. This is still being done at Planning Commission and City Council for rezonings. However, what gets confusing are uses are designed after zoning. So again, if you think about zoning matters, that's the upfront process. Uses are decided when the area is zoned. For example, again, on the left-hand side you can see the existing ordinance, and on the right-hand side you can see the proposed shaped places. The ordinance has not changed. You're still required, if you're rezoning property, to post signs on the property. You still have to notify people within 300 feet, and there's still advertisement in the public paper prior to that public hearing. Also in shaped places, there are 5 or 6 different significant changes that we'll highlight. Shaped places make single family. That allows construction on older residential lots. There are more fence options. Shaped places promotes more than one commercial area, requires consistent landscaping areas, and shaped places assist with this ever-changing market. Single family means single family. The existing ordinance allows twin homes, assisted living centers, daycare centers, middle schools, group homes, and nursing homes, all in a residential single-family district. Shaped places would not allow these uses in a residential single-family district. If those uses would be requested, that land would have to be rezoned and have to have public hearings. Construction on older lots. In regards to the historic preservation areas, there's going to be a district in shaped places called Residential Historic Preservation. And all primary and accessory buildings would have to maintain the same design for that district. Also, the existing ordinance requires 50-foot lots. Now, with shaped places, they support development within the core by allowing the construction of the existing 44-foot lots. There's more backyard fence options. The existing ordinance allows a 6-foot tall fence that has to be 10 foot back from the property line, or a 4-foot tall fence at the property line. Shaped places allows those same 2 options, a 6-foot fence and a 4-foot fence, plus a 5-foot tall fence 5 foot back, staggered fences, columns on fences, and capped fences. There's additional commercial options. The existing ordinance has all the commercial within a C4 planned commercial district. However, the one thing with that is if you're doing a commercial district that has greater than 1 acre or more than 15,000 square feet, you have to go through a conditional use permit. With shaped places, there's standards for commercial districts by size and again by impact. So a C1 district, you could only build up to 4,000 square feet. A C2 district, you could only go up to 25,000 square feet. A C3 district, you could only go up to 75,000 square feet. And then the C4 district under shaped places would be unlimited. Required buffer yards. The buffer is the landscape area when commercial or office is adjacent to residential. The existing ordinance does not have buffer yards. With shaped places, there's a requirement that the buffer increases as the development increases. For example, if there's a large commercial development, you may need to have a 30-foot and a 4-foot berm with 40 units, or if there's even more commercial development or office, it could be a 45-foot buffer yard with a 6-foot berm. Again, these are standard requirements within shaped places. Now we have a changing market in regards to the city of Sioux Falls in this area. The existing ordinance has 270 different planned development districts, which are zoning classifications throughout the city of Sioux Falls. Shaped places would allow an option of mixed use or live-work districts. Mixed use is having the ability on a zoning classification to maybe have an office building above a residential area, or live work is having in one area the ability to live and work in one zoning area. Any questions and answers that the public may have, feel free to contact the City of Sioux Falls Planning Office at the city's website at siouxfalls.org. We have information on there in regards to the meetings that were led up to putting shaped places together. There's information in regards to the ordinance itself. There's images on there, there's examples on there, and there's background data, all in regards to shaped places and the effective zoning ordinance. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about the City of Sioux Falls and the zoning ordinance. If you have any questions or need additional information, please don't hesitate to call. Our information is here on this slide presentation about the ballot information, and also feel free to contact Jeff Schmidt at the city's Planning and Building Services Office, 367-8891. Again, thank you.
There you go. Any questions or comments?
I don't understand why somebody petitioned to put this on the ballot. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because it's already been passed by city council already.
Correct.
And now it's being brought to our.
It's being
our
referred
approval now.
to this election.
You know why it's being referred for our approval?
You guys, should I give you guys a chance to, in the interest of,
Yeah, I'll be happy to answer. Yeah, I was one of the guys that helped do that. I'm Ross Wright. I live down near 85th, Minnesota. You saw the slide that talked about the difference in C1, C2, C3, and C4. So C4 is unlimited size. We disagree that the shaped places isn't related to Walmart because under the old zoning ordinances, anything that is bigger than 75,000 square feet would have to go through the conditional use permitting process. And so under the new one, that's not the case because it's above 75,000, it's unlimited size in C4. So our issue
If
is
it's approved for C4 zoning.
correct. Yep, you got it. So, like Jeff said in the video, it talks about you can still talk about lighting and signage and landscaping, but our issue is that it's too close to single-family residential. It's 160 feet away. The city has the compatibility matrix, and maybe Mike, could you talk about that a little bit? Yeah, would you? Okay. You're the expert on that.
before I do that, did you want to, interest of equal opportunity here? Okay. When we put together the shaped places zoning ordinance, as outlined in this brochure, it was about a 3-year process. It went through a number of public meetings and special study groups and other things that we got input from. And one of the things that we heard, which was I'm trying to explain in the video, is that zoning should matter more at the beginning of the process than at the end of the process. And again, I'll repeat what was in here, that in most cases, in your residential neighborhood, the zoning would allow not only single family, but also possibly twin homes, group homes, nursing homes. And typically today, those are by conditional use. So when zoning is approved under the current ordinance, you're not always sure what could happen in the future. There's not as much reliability as far, or predictability as far as what could happen in a residential neighborhood. On the commercial side, again, in most cases, when property is zoned commercial today, we give it that C4 designation. So if you want to put up a 4,000 square foot store, you can do that through a building permit. If you want to go anything above 1 acre or 15,000 square feet, then you have to go through this conditional use permit process. And today what we look at, or in most cases, is the landscaping, the lighting, the signage, and just making sure it's in compliance with all those requirements. With the new zoning ordinance, we said let's separate those commercial uses, again, to make it more predictable through zoning what's going to happen on that property. So if a zoning comes before a neighborhood for commercial, and the neighborhood says we would like to have this size buildings, and the developer says we would like to have this size buildings, we can sort that out through the zoning process. One thing that didn't get put in the slideshow that's important is that we can put conditions on zoning with shaped places. So we could put conditions on a specific development. So the idea was to try to combine the rezoning and the conditional use into one process, at the same time adding more standards in the ordinance that we would normally look at through a conditional use permit anyway. So a rezoning still goes through planning commission and city council. There are other conditional uses that have been either continued or modified with shaped places. And so those would also continue to go through planning commission, and they could be appealed to city council. That's a long-winded answer, but just kind of summarizing. Okay, go ahead.
I've not heard anything about consideration of how big your streets are, or sewers are, or things that are going to be larger. If you zone something C4, I presume you're going to need greater support for that.
Yeah, you would typically need bigger parking lots. You would look at the traffic impact for a larger commercial development. And you would always look at water, sewer, storm drainage, those kind of things that you would do really for any scale of the project. But the bigger the project, the more review, the more preliminary information.
Is that included in that?
Yeah, that would still be required in the zoning process.
I heard all about berms and setbacks and whatnot, but I did not hear about consideration of sizes.
Well, a lot of that is required through the subdivision review process. And that's a subdivision ordinance, which is different, that's separate.
But that would still be intact. Yep.
Yeah, but that process still goes through as part of a preliminary subdivision plan, but that's a separate ordinance. That's a separate ordinance.
So if Walmart goes through, that passes, and Shaped Places goes through, then would Shaped Places tell Walmart how to construct or the berms and all that stuff?
Berms and lighting and that sort of thing, but the size, we don't get to talk about the size. Under the old one, we do. So that's our main issue. And so when we did this, before we even submitted our signatures, we actually called Greg Jameson and we said, Greg, we don't want to hold up development. We don't want to hold up Shaped Places. We think it's really good except for these main issues. The lack of citizen input through the conditional use process. There were some issues with notice, and we felt that there's properties around Sioux Falls that had either downzoned or upzoned without notice. And then our neighborhood was on multifamily residential, and we discovered that that was incorrect. All those homes are single-family homes. They weren't twin homes. They weren't triplexes. They weren't fourplexes. And so those were our three issues. And so we said before we do this, our main issue is to size. We can fix the fact that our home is zoned incorrectly. We can fix the notice issues by going back. But anyhow, we had Greg call Craig Lloyd, and Craig Lloyd got on the phone with the folks from Walmart. And we said, would you go back and revisit and build a store that's smaller. The Hy-Vee on Minnesota Avenue is 90,000 square feet. The Hy-Vee at 57th and Cliff is around 50,000 square feet. This is going to be 185,000 square feet. It's right across the street from this whole board. We would love to have something that's the size of the Hy-Vee on Minnesota Avenue. That would make sense to us. We would also love to talk with you about making something that's not 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. And we were told, no, sorry, we're going forward with this sort of big one, actually. So that's when we filed our petitions and went ahead. And all along, we just want to have something that conforms with the neighborhood. We expect there to be development. Mike knows that, Sam knows that, Craig knows that. And we want there to be development at 850 also. Of course there's going to be, but to have something
Maybe
that
someone else
size.
has a question. Anyone have a question? We only have a few minutes left.
I'm sure you'll take it outside.
One of the things that I wanted to comment before you do is that Shape Places is hoping to correct a situation that we just mentioned. In this case, a residential neighborhood was zoned for up to 4 plexes. The people chose to build single-family homes. Or Shape Places, we could avoid that from happening in the future because the zoning would be more specific. Go ahead.
Well, I am from Pettigrew Heights neighborhood, and I am supporting Shape Places because what Shape Places does is make sure that when you're living in a neighborhood, some of these things that used to be able to creep in through the conditional use process, like homeless shelters, which we saw in the Whittier neighborhood, or structures such as daycares, those are not allowed to be in residential districts now that Shape Places is taking place. And so we feel safer in our neighborhoods because really what was going on was nonprofits were buying up our land and demolishing our historic homes, and now that won't be happening because they won't be able to put in rehab centers unless we say, yes, we agree with this use, let's go forward with it. So it really protects the neighborhoods. And as for the Walmart area, they'd actually be better off under Shape Places because they could ask for a zoning from C4 to C3, which right now, there's really only one commercial district, and you never really know, is it gonna be a dog boutique or is it gonna be Walmart? Right now, you don't know what's gonna go in, and if it's already rezoned commercial, you really can't do anything to prevent what's going in. Because the rezoning hearing is where you get to decide where to prevent it. And the conditional use hearing is only when you can say, well, we want less lighting or smaller signs, but you can't really oppose it at that point. So what Shape Places does is say, well, we don't want the developers to intentionally confuse the residents. We want to put this all in one hearing so they know which hearing to go to, and they have their voice, and they can say things, whether they're opposing the zoning, and then they can say, we want this to be C2 instead of C4, which will allow only 25,000 square feet. So really, it does give you a better chance to voice the size of the building on Shape Places.
We got time for one more comment?
I was just gonna, I mean, the statement about people choosing to build homes there, I mean, it's people, it's developers, and it's the city. It's not just one party. So I just wanna make sure that was clear
Sure,
for
yeah.
everybody, so.
I should have said the residents, but whatever the right term is, yeah. Okay.
When's it gonna be, when's the 4-lane gonna get started?
On
There's
85th
only-
Street.
Right, you've only got 2 lanes done now.
Yeah, we have a list of street improvements that would be required to be completed prior to the opening of a.
Okay, now is that on the CIP to do that one now? How
Yes.
far back is that one on the CIP?
Well, it's not in the CIP because it would be privately funded.
So Walmart would take care of that, or what? Okay.
We've got a list that we can show you afterwards of how that would be done. In fact, these guys can show it to you, so. All right, I guess we'll pass the official time. I'll be happy to stick around. But
There you go.
thank you folks very much for. Winter has returned. Thank you very much for coming tonight and